that need the help, but we need to do our jobs individually. And I'm always just stunned by drives that I hear for various things, and they're raising $300,000 and $250,000 here for this station and that station. And I'm figuring we can do better. We can certainly, and we're not even trying to raise that kind of money. I'm just a practical kind of guy. We try to do things on the cheap. So we don't have a $50,000 budget. We're just asking for $5,000 to be able to mobilize this guy through several months of the summer to be able to do this. That's it. So if you're able to write a bigger check and you've been blessed to be able to do that, please consider doing that so we can get that thermometer moved up. It's a little embarrassing to kind of see that stagnant and not moving, and I don't tool with it. If it's not going to move unless, there's a donation made. Now, we do get folks that support us on a monthly basis. That's different, and we appreciate that. That helps us pay the internet bill, the electric bill, and things like that. I don't take a salary, so I just wanted to let you know, no salary for the people. I don't take one because the money's just not there. And some people might say, well, that it's because the show's not doing well. It has nothing to do with that. People listen to it on several radio stations, okay? And we don't pay for airtime. We've been gaining radio stations, if anything, in other markets. So it's a growing thing. It's just we're not on 100 stations. We're not even on 50 stations. But we want to get there. The only way we can get there is to get the word out. And it costs money to do that, and time and energy and effort, and we're doing the best we can. But again, if you like it, please help us so we can continue on doing a great show each and every day, and we appreciate it so much. ForThePeopleShow.com is where you can make a donation right there on our front page. All right, here's a headline, very interesting, a new ferry service. It's not here in the United States. This is one from Russia to North Korea. A Russian firm announced yesterday, as a matter of fact, a weekly ferry service linking Russia city of Vladivostok to North Korea's port. That's right, Rajan. Despite the U.S. calling for world powers to isolate Pyongyang. Not a surprise. Our Russian relationship, not good. They're not listening. They're not paying attention. Boy, they can get their people out of harm's way when we start launching some cruise missiles the other day. They can do that. Because we say we're going to launch those missiles, I think Russia knows with those tomahawks, we mean business. But a very bad move. But it goes to show you, he is a total in cahoots with these idiot dictators, and it really makes him look like an idiot. And his country. Really, legitimately, wholeheartedly, if the guy really was trying to do a good job and do things on the up and up, he wouldn't be propping up Assad's government or the idiot dictator in North Korea, Kim Jong-un. Who in the world? Well, then he's friends with the mullahs. This is the type of people that this guy, he's dangerous. And the more I get thinking about, people are concerned increasingly. The liberals, I think, may have some point to be made. They're basically just saying, don't get too close. Maybe it's just a warning sign, thinking that maybe Trump is just being too soft, too nice, too kind to Vladimir because of things that he has said that, again, have been taken out of context. When, he says that he's a good leader, he's a powerful leader, he thinks he can work with them and things like that, and, he thinks our two countries will do well together. It just sounds too cozy. And so I think that they want sterner language from the president to say, we have our eyes on you, and maybe some tough language from the president moving forward and saying something to the extent, if we find that you, Russia, have interfered whatsoever with our elections, if we find any of this or any wrongdoings, we're not just going to stop supplying, goods over here, to North Korea. We're going to do it to you. We're going to slap more sanctions. And we've done that with Russia, but even more with our allies. And there probably needs to be tougher talk in regards there. But they are a superpower. And they're extremely defiant. And who's being much more defiant now? Well, close to it. But China has been pretty dangerous with our bomb sniffing plane that we just had up in the air in the China Sea. Did you hear about that? You didn't? Aren't you glad that I scour the news wires for you? 2 Chinese fighter jets intercepted an American radiation sniffing surveillance plane. One of ours in the East China Sea, and what is known as an unprofessional maneuver. See, this is the stuff that's going on over there. And this is according to the Pentagon. They came much too close, says a Pentagon source. 2 Chinese Su-30 aircraft on Wednesday intercepted a U.S. WC-135 Constant Phoenix aircraft, which they were conducting a routine mission in the international space of airspace there over the East China Sea, the Air Force said today. So we are still investigating the incident. Initial reports from the U.S. air crew characterized the incident as unprofessional. Air Force spokesman Lieutenant Colonel Lori Hodge. And that's her report. So it's not just the Russians that are doing this now, it's the Chinese. Because we want to know what's going on. Well, supposedly they're launching some nukes there, and then you got the Spratly Islands, and they're building up their military presence there, which they feel like they're entitled to build. Very interesting how the Chinese are jockeying for power. So all of these things were allowed to happen under the watch of Barack Hussein Obama. He didn't care. He didn't say anything about it. And now, since we have a new sheriff in town, they're all upset. But I tell you, eventually, one of these planes is going to get shot out of the sky with messing with the U.S. Air Force. Yeah, they have an Air Force, too. I get it. You know, people say, well, you know, they can shoot us down and they can, you know, but what they're doing is it's very provocative. And it puts our Air Force personnel, we don't do that. We don't do this to their pilots. They're doing it to us. They're flying very close to U.S. shores within, you know, so many 50 miles here in Alaska. I mean, between the Russians and the Chinese, dear God. But this ferry service, this is very, very sad. I mean, North Korea, and because of the sanctions, is, you know, feeling the pinch. And he's done this before. It's you know, the sanctions of how he tries to make the money back is he takes North Koreans and puts them on a boat, and they go out and work in different places like Russia, and the money goes back to North Korea. They don't see a dime of it. They work their butts off, whatever it is. But yeah, it's slave. They use slaves. Exactly. And then they reap the money. I mean, this is how crooked. This is how terrible. And yes, if they don't do it, guess what they're going to do to them? They'll kill them. They'll kill them. That's the type of regime. I say, blue glass them. It just, don't we have the military might to get in there and take his regime out quickly, swiftly? Yes, we do. I think it's just this summer. I predict it. I really do. This guy's got to be stopped. The guy is crazy. People say he's smart. I think the guy's nuts. I think he's a loose cannon. Very rogue, very dangerous, and dangerous for everybody in that hemisphere. Dangerous for our troops especially, and those to the south. And for the Chinese even. A lot of people are just wondering if China actually has the cojones to actually enforce this and be real about it. But their major concern about all of this is if we unleash our whoop ass and we attack and we do some damage, guess who's going to be coming to run into their country? They're going to get North Koreans. Little man are going to be right into their country. And China doesn't want any more people. You understand? They have enough problems with people, population problems. But Andrew Hawkins, the guy was he like a scientist of some? Yeah, you could see him in the wheelchair. He says that we need to leave planet Earth because of the population problem within 100 years. He gives us 100 years until we deplete most of the resources on the planet. Do you think he's right? He says the bees are going to disappear. They're not going to be able to pollinate. We're not going to be able to feed this many billions of people on the planet. We've leached the ground enough. And he says we're going to have to really colonize other planets because our planet's not going to be able to sustain the growing population. Unless, what some people say, population control. Oh, there's books about it. You can find them. Oh, yeah. People talk about these things. What do you think wars are for? But China does have a lot of folks. Well, they have the 1 million man army. I mean, it's pretty impressive. China's big. I don't think we want China as an enemy. No, I don't think we want Russia as an enemy. We don't want any of them. But geez, there was a time. And we're rebuilding something called leadership with a capital A. Leadership. And it's a time where America has changed trajectory. A lot of these countries are starting to get used to the idea. It was nice to see the Colombian president at the White House yesterday, as a matter of fact, before Trump, going off on his first scheduled stops in Saudi Arabia, Israel, and beyond. He's going to go to the Vatican. Busy trip. And by the way, they believe that this is going to be a kind of a big deal on reshaping the presidency of how he's viewed overseas. So big test for Donald Trump and how he acts. But back to the Colombian president talking about how we have fought together in World War II, in Afghanistan, in Iraq. We fought together. We've worked out. We've worked well together, and it was just pretty much solidifying them as an ally. Because they're having some tough times themselves, but a nice invitation to Trump to visit Colombia, saying that we're modernizing, we're trying to clean up the reputation with the drugs and our infrastructure, and he says, "Come, I think you'll like what you see." I think it was a proud moment for the Colombian people. A lot of Colombian people live in the United States. A lot of them, a lot of folks here in the Bay Area for Colombia. Nicest people. I have some clients that I work with from Colombia. Nice folks. And very, very hardworking. And something I got to tell you, they love this country. They love this country. You can learn a lot from somebody else that lives from someplace else that's not quite America. And what they see most of all is the enormous opportunities that are over here. They see it. A lot of times people, they're chasing their tails, trying to figure out what they're going to do next. So these folks come over here and they immediately go to work. They get their permits, they get their degrees, education, they start businesses, and they work so hard. And in no time, they're bringing their family over, buying houses, getting it together, doing it right. I've heard people from the Philippines doing the same thing. From Cuba, from Mexico. I mean, hard worker. A lot of Americans, I'm telling you, for whatever reason, are just not as ambitious. And I think maybe if you go to the poorest places sometimes on the planet and experience that, then you see what you really have in front of you. But, I never had the sense that I was entitled to anything. And I never really felt good about it anyway. And I'd have to thank my dad for that. Seriously, my late father, because in the 80s, it was tough love. I had to get a job sweeping floors at a radio station. I made pizza, and it taught me some valuable lessons. But I'll tell you, even making pizza or dishwashing or sweeping the floor, when you work at a restaurant, you do everything. But, man, when you worked a full day, you were tired. But it was an honest buck. And when you got paid, you felt